Alrighty, so the first night of the CCL quarterfinal first leg action is in the books, and unfortunately tonight was not a great night for MLS team in the CONCACAF Champions League. Well, unless you're a Union fan, this must be probably one of the best night of your life in terms of supporting your team after what they did to Atlanta in this first leg of the quarterfinal, which before we actually get to talk about this game, I just wanted to quickly say that for those wondering, what does it feel like watching a game in CCL where both MLS team is facing off against each other in an all MLS affair in the CCL quarterfinal? I absolutely love it. I mean, it is not very often you usually see these kind of scenario where two MLS teams facing off against each other in the CCL knockout stage. I mean, the last time that has happened was 2018 when Toronto played against Colorado in the round of 16. And if you want to go all the way back to 2011, that was the last time when we actually see a CCL quarterfinal where it was an all MLS affair between the Columbus Crew versus RSL. And the beauty about this being an all MLS affair is that, for me, I don't really need to have like a huge emotional attachment toward an MLS team that they need to, of course, win both of these legs to move on into the next round, because, usually when I have that emotional attachment, it's usually when an MLS team is playing against a Liga MX opponent or a Central America opponent. But in this case, since it's an all MLS affair, I'm just kind of acting like this is a normal MLS game. Although, judging how the way that this game turns out, it definitely was not a normal MLS game. It kind of felt like an MLS playoff vibe from a couple of years ago, where remember a couple of years ago when the playoff format was still a two-legged affair and you have to win the aggregate score in that two-legged affair to move on into the next round. And I think one of the biggest criticism in terms of that format is that usually the first leg tends to be very boring. Well, after watching this game, it was anything but that. And in many ways, this game, I think a good cliche in terms of explaining what happened in this game is basically one team was able to take advantage of the opportunity that they got in the game and score 3 goals, and the other had bunch of chances, but they weren't able to put away, and that was the reason why they end up on the losing side. And also, I can maybe add to the fact that Andre Blake basically decided to show why he won the goalkeeper of the year last season, because he basically went peak Andre Blake form in this one, just not letting Atlanta any opportunity to put the ball into the back of net with some incredible save that he made throughout this game. Now, Atlanta, they decided to go with 4 changes in this game, which include Joseph Martinez getting his second start of the season. Well, the Union, unsurprisingly, they decided to not make a lot of changes. Only 1 changes to their starting 11, and that, of course, is bring Corey Burke in the starting 11 in replace of Sergio Santos, which in some way, I don't think Union fans were happy about that, and especially after watching the performance that Corey Burke had in the first half. Yeah, I heard a lot of Union fans were very upset of Burke's performance in the first half and was demanding Jim Curtin to basically sub him off and bring Sergio Santos back in the starting 11, which thankfully seems like Jim Curtin listened to the fans at halftime and basically substituted Santos in for Burke. And we'll talk about later how Santos definitely made some impact in the game and were one of the contributor of one of the 3 goals that the Union scored in this one. Now, in the first half, Andre Blake would deny Jurgen Damm, who went through on goal. That would be a foreshadow of what would come for the rest of the game, where Blake was absolutely on top of his game and was just not allowing any shot to get pass into his own net and let Atlanta get a goal in this game. Then Jose Martinez would get a yellow card, which would be his second in CCL. And the reason why I want to note that this is because, for whatever reason in CCL, they tends to be very strict in terms of yellow card accumulation, where if you pick up 2 yellow cards in the round of 16 or during the not the semifinal, but the quarterfinal, that is, you're going to be suspended for the next game. And since this was the second yellow card for Jose Martinez, that means he will be suspended in that second leg of affair that the Union is going to be playing against Atlanta. Now, when you look at how the result end up for the Union, maybe this one won't play as big of a role heading into the next leg, because I really think for Atlanta, unless if they are able to overcome a gigantic 3-0 deficit they are in right now, I don't think they're going to move on into the semifinal, and I would even say the Union probably have 1.5 step in terms of making their way into the semifinal of CCL. But imagine if this was maybe a 1-0 or a 2-0 win for the Union, or even if Atlanta was able to take advantage of their chances and maybe win this one. That could have been a huge loss for the Union heading into the second leg, because Jose Martinez is really one of the heart and soul player of this team, and losing him in the second leg is definitely going to be a big loss for the Union if this game would have turned out to be a losing effort for the Union, or if the Union only win like 1-0 in this one. Now Atlanta, they really dictate the game early, while the Union, they were just kind of stuck in their own half. I mean, it was just a total domination that Atlanta had in this game, and I was thinking eventually they're going to find that first goal in. Well, they had a chance in the 31st minute, but Andre Blake was able to deny Emerson Hyman, who tried to whack one from long range, but it was a lovely save from Blake, full stretch. Then Blake would rob Marcelo Moreno, who went through on goal, but unfortunately wasn't able to put away. And then it was Joseph Martinez's turn to be denied by the wall of Andre Blake, as he also kind of went through on goal, but Blake was able to come off his lines to deny him there. And I also wrote Atlanta could have been 2 or 3-0 up in this game, and you just wonder those missed chances that they have. How many times we have said this before, where you can basically put pressure on the goalkeeper and basically they trouble the goalkeeper and forcing him to make some good save to deny you to be on the score sheet. But when is there a time where you're not going to able to find that first goal, and the frustration is going to start to settle in? Now heading into the second half with the score 0-0, Andre Blake looked like he didn't skip a beat, because 2 minutes in, he denied Moreno from close range again. Atlanta was really pressing for the opener at that point. But then in the 55th minute, Guzan actually robbed Shibilko, as Philly almost looked like they put a sucker punch in Atlanta and almost score against the run of play. But then on the very next sequence, and from the corner, Shibilko is able to score to give Atlanta, or to give the Union, a 1-0 lead. And this was just poor set piece defending from Atlanta. Like, the last guy you want to be wide open in the box from a corner is Castor Shibilko, and basically because that ends up to be the case, it was not surprising the fact that Shibilko was able to not only get wide open, but when the ball comes in, he basically said, "Thank you very much, I'm just going to tap this in." And just like that, the Union, against the run of play, gets the opening goal of this game. Then Sosa hit the post in the 59th minute, and at that point I basically just wrote, this just doesn't seem like it's going to be Atlanta night, and this feels like this is going to be it's just, no matter what Atlanta does going forward, it's either going to be saved by Andre Blake, or the post is just going to be unkind for them. And I think maybe this is just kind of retribution for what happened over the weekend against the Chicago Fire, where Atlanta was kind of maybe the beneficial of the post, because I mentioned how in that game where the post was the story in that one, and Chicago basically hit the post 3 times. Well, the old saying, posts of course are given, and now posts are taken, and it seemed like this is now the case where the post is basically they are reminding Atlanta that, yeah, you got help during the weekend's action, but now it's time for some payback, and you need to kind of pay your debt in terms of relying on the post to potentially help you to win a game. Now, things did get physical between both of these teams, and the CONCACAF level of shithousery started to begin, because you knew that the Union, with the way that they were holding on to a 1-0 lead, and Atlanta was continuing to pressure, they were going to try any way to try to waste time, and there was definitely a lot of sequence in the last 30 minutes of the game where the Union player were not only wasting time, but they were also kind of basically faking injuries and just practicing the dark arts to try to waste as much time as possible. But despite the fact that Atlanta continued to push for the equalizer, I thought that they also left a lot of space for the Union to try to exploit whenever they go on the counterattack. And it feels like every time when the Union tried to go on the counterattack, they always find a good opportunity to score a goal. And indeed, it happened again in the 72nd minute when Shibilko would score his second goal from Leon Flock. This one kind of didn't come from a transition, but more like a WTF turnover from Alana that Flock was able to win it. But then he put a perfect pass to Shibilko, who again just got completely on mark there in the box. He basically slots it home to make it 2-0 in favor of the Union. There was some flare up between Jose Martinez and Ezekiel Barco in the 80th minute, because again, at that point the Union was really trying everything and practicing the dark arts to try to waste as much time as possible, and Barco was definitely not having it, and started to have some choice words with Martinez, and also kind of trying to do some pushing and shoving throughout that point. But at that stage, I also thought that with this flare up that is going on, this feels like it clearly favored the Union, because they know that as long as they continue to do this, and as long as there's going to be a lot of stoppage and breaking the rhythm of Atlanta to potentially get one back in this game, there potentially is going to win 2-0. And also, as long as if Atlanta continue to put men forward, they know that they're going to get space at the back. And would you know it, the third goal that they scored, which was Anthony Fontana that scores the third goal from Shibilko and Santos, it all came because Atlanta committed too many men forward. Because as soon as this ball was turned over in the midfield, I will give credit that Sergio Santos did play a world class of a ball to Shibilko, but because there was just so much space to occupy in the back, Shibilko was able to get through on goal. And originally I thought maybe he was going to try to hit that one to score his hat trick, but he decided to be unselfish, saw Fontana being wide open on the right side, and basically feeds it to him, which Fontana basically scored the easiest goals that he will ever score in his career, puts it into the empty net. And just like that, it's 3-0 in favor of the Union, and that would be the final score of this game. As the shots in this game, 16 shots compared to 8 that the Union has, 7 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Union has, 5 shots off target compared to 2 that the Union has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Philly has. And possession-wise, Atlanta dominate the possession 65% compared to 35%, and despite the fact that they dominate every single category in the stat chart, at the end of the day, they weren't being clinical in this game. The Union was, and that is the reason why the Philadelphia Union is able to move on into the second leg, where now they're going to be looking very comfortable and hope to try to just see things out in the second leg to move on into the semifinal. And again, for Atlanta, I think unless if there is a bit of a miracle that they might do in the second leg, I think it's too much for them to overcome a 3-0 deficit, and that they have to score all 3 goals. I mean, I know there's definitely players on this team that has the capable of scoring goals, but the Union is also another team that when you look at their defensive record, they rarely gave up 3 goals, especially at home. So I feel like there's no doubt the Union are probably only 1.5 step in terms of moving on into the semifinal of CCL, but we shall see heading into the second leg if there is going to be even more crazy things as we saw in the first leg. But overall, this was definitely an amazing game to watch. Probably one of the best game I've seen so far in the CONCACAF Champions League. But now moving on, in terms of the next match is Toronto. So for TFC, unfortunately, that magical pixie dust that they had against Lyon, and they were able to use that to be able to pull off an upset and able to move on into the next round of the quarterfinal. Well, it feels like they kind of need that same magical pixie dust, especially now they're going to play against the best team of in Liga MX right now in Cruz Azul, and unfortunately that magical pixie dust basically ran out in this first leg. And what's frustrating about this game, if you are a Toronto fan, is that they basically suffered the same problem that FC Cincinnati had in that game against NYCFC, and that of course is set piece, and set piece. And you notice I said set piece 3 times because that's the amount of goals that they conceded from the set piece in this game. Now, Josie Altidore did return in the starting 11, although this was still a relatively weak TFC side, and you could maybe even say that this is still kind of a TFC2 side against Cruz Azul in this game. This game is being played at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, so this one was played at the same site of the last Super Bowl. I'm kind of sad to see that they do not allow fans to attend this game because, I know this game is technically kind of like a neutral game for TFC since they're not really playing at home. But come on, let the fans in and watch this game. I mean, they might not be rooting for TFC, but at least get them in, maybe get some match revenue. I mean, the only thing that maybe is the reason why they decide not to let fans in is because this game actually kicked off around 10 o'clock, and usually you're probably not going to have a lot of fans actually attend your game, and especially fans that are not actually rooting for one of these teams to be going on a Tuesday night at 10 o'clock to watch a CCL matchup. So maybe that is understandable why this game was played without any fans. But in the first half, 2 minutes in, it's Angelo scoring from Alvarado to give Cruz Azul a 1-0 lead. This, of course, was off a set piece, unsurprisingly, that TFC did not deal with it. Won't be the first time I would say that throughout this review of this game. But, early on, it looked like Cruz Azul was all over Toronto, and I'm not quite sure if Toronto realized that the game has already started because they really came out of this game not only flat, but just looked like they were sleepwalking coming out of this game. And I thought this could really get ugly if Cruz Azul is going to take advantage of that and maybe to put 2 or 3 past TFC inside the first 15 minutes of the game. Now, TFC eventually did wake up and did showed some life after 15 minutes. And they not only show some life after 15 minutes, but they definitely have life now after the 20th minute mark, as Jonathan Osorio would tie the game up at 1 apiece in this game. And this was kind of a very similar kind of goal that Osorio scored compared to the goal that he scored over the weekend against Vancouver, where, Cruz Azul did not do a good job in terms of clearing the ball away. And how many times I said when you don't clear the ball away in the box, you're basically letting your opposition a chance to basically stab that one into the back of net. And in this case, it was Osorio for the second game in a row, being the benefit of the show of a person that is able to slot it home this after Cruz Azul wasn't able to clear that ball away. But yeah, the game was tied up at 1 apiece, and again, there was definitely life now for TFC, knowing the fact that this game is tied at 1 apiece. But then just 2 minutes later, Cruz Azul looked like they scored the second goal, and it looked like Escobar immediately gave Cruz Azul the lead back. But then VAR was used for the very first time, and I forgot to mention that in this quarterfinal, this is actually the first time that the CONCACAF Champions League is going to be introducing VAR. And let's just say the use of VAR in this game, yeah, it was definitely questionable. And I'll talk about in a moment the next VAR that they decided to do and how that was definitely a questionable decision. But this one, I think it was the right call. I mean, Escobar, he was barely in an offside position, but still, I think even though he was kind of barely in an offside position, as long as you're in an offside position, you're going to be called for offside. So TFC got off the hook in terms of that, and really that also was a set piece goal that Cruz Azul could have scored. So I mentioned how TFC ended up conceding 3 set piece goal in this game. Well, it could have been a 4-1, or in this case could have been a second set piece goal that they concede off the night if VAR did not actually help them out in this game. Now, just 2 minutes later, as I mentioned, VAR was once again being used. I mean, it seems like CONCACAF finally decided to use VAR, and they really love it when they used it the first time, and then 2 minutes later they thought, hey, I love it so much, let's use it again. And apparently this was actually a potential penalty that Cruz Azul has, after it looked like Osorio kind of handballed this one from a shot from Quakes legend Rafael Baca. But when I look on the replay, well, actually when I do look on the replay, I feel like that should have been a penalty, because it was pretty clear that Osorio did has his outstretched arm to try to block that shot. I think he tried to use his outstretched arm so that he can basically protect that ball from hitting his face. But still, at the end of the day, when you decide to do that, 9 out of 10 times that is going to be called a penalty. Well, I wouldn't say 9 out of 10 times, but more like 7 out of 10 times, because I have seen before where that's not called a penalty, and it seems like this is just one of those instant where 3 out of 10 times it wasn't call a penalty, and that, again, TFC got lucky that they got off the hook in terms of potentially conceding a penalty and also conceding a second goal. But unfortunately, 10 minutes later, they weren't so lucky in terms of conceding this goal, as Angulo would score his second goal of the game. And would you believe it's poor set piece defending again from TFC, where the ball was coming in, and I think Angulo was able to get there first before Michael Bradley. I mean, it was great that he was able to win that header to put it in. But if you're a defender, and especially if you're Michael Bradley, you cannot let your attacker able to get there first and beat you on the header, because at the end of the day, that's what your main responsibility is. You need to, of course, try to head that one away. So at that point, it was a 2-1 lead in favor of Cruz Azul. Toronto did try to push and press for the equalizer at the end of the half, but we had to halftime with a 2-1 lead in this one. In the 57th minute, Alvaro did had a short range effort that went high over the bar, but then 1 minute later, it's Aguilar who scores from Pineda to make it 3-1 in favor of Cruz Azul. Again, bad set piece defending from TFC, and at that point, I also kind of wrote, is TFC going to match FC Cincinnati set piece concede record, which last weekend, or just this weekend, FC Cincinnati actually set a record in terms of the most goal that any team has ever conceded on a set piece in a single game, with it concede 5 set piece goal against NYCFC in that one. Then in the 72nd minute, Jimenez did hit the post on a header. Again, that could have also been the fourth goal that TFC would have conceded. Well, actually, this wasn't from a set piece, but more like it was a cross coming in, but still, it's kind of the same thing. When you see a set piece kind of opportunity, it's usually a ball looping into the box, and it just feels like throughout this game, Toronto was having a tough time in terms of trying to deal with those ball coming into the box. Then Bono would deny Jimenez in 84th minute, although even if Jimenez put that one into the back net, it wouldn't have counted because the flag went up for offside. Then there was another controversial moment just 1 minute later, after there was no penalty given to Cruz Azul after Omar Gonzalez looked like he brought down Alvaro, and I think that should have been called a penalty too. And the fact that I'm kind of surprised they didn't actually look at VAR in this play, after they were kind of being a little bit trigger happy in terms of looking at VAR early in this game, is definitely kind of a surprise. But despite the fact that there was no penalty awarded to Cruz Azul, and they're kind of frustrated that they couldn't maybe made it 4-1 and really be in the driver's seat of moving on into the semifinal. They still are able to win this one 3-1, and the shots in this game, 22 shots compared to 10 that Toronto has in this game, 6 shots on goal compared to 2 that Toronto has, 10 shots off target compared to 2 that TFC had. Both teams had 6 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, TFC actually had the better of the possession, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that Cruz Azul had in this game. But overall, when you look at the chances that this game was presented, Cruz Azul by far had the more dangerous chances. And really, overall, when you look at how this game plays out, Cruz Azul basically would deserve to get the 3 points, and not just the 3 points, but also win this first leg. And now, heading into that second leg where TFC, they need to at least score 3 goals if they are able to move on into the semifinal. I just don't see that potentially is going to happen. And it's not just because they have to go down to the Azteca to be able to do so, but also the fact that when you look at this team, and unless if they might have their recent signing Celtado be ready for that second leg affair, or if Pozuelo is going to be ready for that second leg affair against Cruz Azul, I just don't see how this team is going to be potentially move on into the next round. Because not only the fact that this team is not good in terms of defending set pieces, but this team also had a lot of trouble in terms of scoring goals, and they just didn't really do much going forward on the attack, where you would think that this team can potentially come back from this. And the only goal that they scored was a very fortunate sequence where it was actually Cruz Azul themselves that actually caused that mistake to let to TFC getting the only goal of this game, and you're not going to score a lot of goals when you're only trying to capitalize on your opposition mistake, and especially how good Cruz Azul is. I don't see how they're gonna be able or I don't see Toronto able to come back from this one, and that's if Cruz Azul, I know I have heard, of course, the past of how this team tends to be a choker kind of team, and they always find ways to lose a game when they're or heading into the game and lose it in a way where they're already in a commanding position. But still, I don't see how TFC is going to come back in this game, especially with the lineup that they currently have. That could be maybe the same lineup that they'll be playing heading into the second leg against Cruz Azul. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of both of these games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of both of these CCL quarterfinal game. Tomorrow we got 2 more CCL quarterfinal first leg game, and tomorrow we actually see both MLS teams are going to be playing against a Liga MX opponent. So that means that unlike tonight, where we at least did get one MLS team win and able to get themselves in a good position to move on into the semifinal, we shall see whether or not if that's going to be the same case, or unfortunately we're going to see what happened in this game between TFC versus Cruz Azul, where a Liga MX opponent is able to do well in the first leg, and it seems like it's could be a grim kind of state for these MLS team if they aren't able to do well in the first leg and have to go to Mexico for the second leg to try to overcome the deficit. But let's just hope maybe tomorrow Portland and Columbus don't have to do so when they face against their respective Liga MX opponent in the quarterfinal of CCL. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.